bunch of us. We're up at this fabulous resort in North Phoenix, owned by our very own Diane Hansen. And so we invited ourselves up for a meal afterwards. And if you can make it, come on over, because we're going to have a good time. Anyway, this is the group, Fearless Flight Live. Captain Ron and Diane Hansen over here, Eric Larson over here, and Sue, who always stays in the periphery for us. She's a former Fearful Flyer, and she helps me organize the presentations and things. If it's not organized, it wasn't her fault, though. Okay, so we know. Peter, of course, is up in Toronto. He's the only member that couldn't make it here because Canada is not allowing him to leave the country there.
They won't let him out.
Yeah. So anyway.
But even if they allowed us, you guys wouldn't have me right now.
So
well, I mean your country, not you personally.
Not us personally.
So this is the place that we hope you come to for if you have a fear of flying, or if you know somebody who has a fear, or if you just like to hang out and talk about aviation. And we're going to do all three tonight. We're going to cover all three of those. We first like to mention the Fearless Flight Birds of a Feather group. It's continuing to grow. Oh my gosh, the number of people that I've seen is increasing now, which is kind of what you hope for. You get some exponential rise in that, and it's really working out. Getting a lot of participation. And if you haven't, I'd encourage you to go over there and take a look at Tracy Solis's post this last week. She and I flew together. I'm going to highlight a couple of pictures here that we had. I flew with a couple of people, custom students this week, and we had a number of people, and I probably forgot somebody, but I heard a number of people that have flown this week, and people that got flights coming up. So people are coming out of the woodwork, and I'll share just a few of my takes on the system because there were people everywhere. It was a busy thing. So 101 online, we're going to talk about that and the fact that it's coming to those of you who can't make it to our live class. The big week for Fearful Flyers. Patsy Rankin, our guest, is going to come up here in a minute. We got a couple things for the Aviation News Update, and we've got a question from somebody that came in. So with that, let's keep the ball rolling. Elaine couldn't be with us tonight, so we're lacking her Tuesday tip, but well, it's Wednesday. It would have had to be a Wednesday tip anyway. So without further ado, let's move forward. And I forgot to put the slide up here because I forgot what's next.
Well,
so.
The first one is going to be our 101 class that we now have finally, hopefully, silenced the number one, disappointment or excuse. Oh, I wish I had the class, the 101 class, but I live in wherever. And so, Ron, what did we do?
Well, we got that, and so you could pick a date down there. It's going to be the same content. You won't be able to get in the airplane unless you can talk to Southwest Airlines and get them to let you in the airplane to watch the class with us. So let us know how that works out. Okay, but it'll be the same.
But the next one is June 6th.
Yeah, it'll be the same content that we do on the live class here in Phoenix. And we just thought it was time to bring you all in there. So you can go to the link there. Dieter will probably post that in the notes if he hasn't already, and take a look and see what it's got to offer down there and register. You'll when you click on it, you'll register. You go right into the Zoom registration, and you're in. So it's real good. We're really looking forward to it. I think we're going to have the group if Diane's not working and the creek doesn't rise, then you're in there. So. Okay, and next I think I had, can you give us the next slide?
Yeah, it's so the next slide is the poll question.
Okay.
I didn't realize I had to. Yeah, go ahead.
One of the things that comes up with people who are trying to overcome their fear of flying is, how do I know I'm ready? And I wish I could say, the skies will open and the doves will fly and all that, but not likely. Matter of fact, oftentimes you'll feel worse than the night before you fly than you did leading up to that. And you'll give me a call and say, hey, Ron, I thought this was supposed to be better than it. But the good news is when people get on and they take off, usually within minutes, they notice an improvement over the last time they flew. So the poll question is designed for that. It's how do you know when it's time to get on the airplane and into the air? The main thing is you just have to do it. And we've got people tonight, including Patsy, who did just that. They said, you know, this is what I want to do. I no longer want to be grounded by my fear, and I'm going to do it. And I'll share a couple of stories with some former fearful flyers who flew this last week, and a couple of coaching students that I worked with who did the same thing. So, okay. So we love your comments down there, whether you're live or online. And I'm still going to push the 15-minute coaching sessions. Everybody's coming out of the woodwork, and I love that. So keep coming back, or keep making appointments if you haven't done that. I'd love to talk with you and help you get on track and maybe jumpstart overcoming your fear. Do it quickly, because the fares are going up. Let me tell you, the airlines have figured out that people are coming back there. So if you haven't signed up for that, that link will be in the notes as well.
The fares are going up, not the fears.
Oh yeah,
The fares.
yeah. I'm sorry about that.
It costs more money. That's what he meant to say.
Yeah.
And there's a fear about the fares. That's
The
about
fear of
it.
fares, exactly.
Okay, and next is the next one.
Next is our special guest.
Oh, special guest. Okay. Patsy and I went through my notes when I first talked to her, was back in 2008 or 9. I can't remember in this moment here. But Patsy was somebody that just developed an affinity for, and we talked early on. And she contacted me just about a month ago or so. She wanted to kind of brush up on some things. So welcome, Patsy. Tell us all about it. You know,
Hi.
welcome.
Hi.
Glad to have you here.
Hi, Ron and gang. You know, I've never talked other than one-on-one about my fear of flying, and that's been with Ron. I've had this fear. I'm to say it, I'm 63, and the fear came about when I was 21. I had moved to Chicago, from Ohio to Chicago, to be with this guy I was all in love with, and well, it didn't work out. And on April Fool's Day of 1980, I left, and I had an airplane ticket.
So far, you got a good sitcom going, right?
I know. So what happened was that I think it was United. They went on strike, and I lost.
1985.
Yes, the 570. It was
Okay.
1985.
Oh, sorry, we know all the details, but keep going.
But it was 1980, and who went on strike in 1980? Anyhow, you guys can look that up. But they went on strike. This is my story. They went on strike.
Good point, Patsy.
Okay, we're done, baby.
I don't know what I say. I always blame United. But anyhow, they went on strike, and I had to leave town. I mean, I had this big scene with this guy, and I had to leave. And I ended up taking a Greyhound to St. Louis, where my aunt was. And somewhere in there, being heartbroken, young and heartbroken, and not knowing what to do next in life, I decided to have fears. And I just hid that pain, and I got a fear of flying. I had flown since I was an Air Force child, youngest of 4. Until I was 6 months old, we moved from Virginia to the Netherlands, to Arizona, to Ohio. I flew all the time to see relatives, as a kid, as a young adult. But at 21, I froze. And I did not fly again till I was 35. And my husband and I had moved to Florida. And I live in Southwest Florida, and we always drove. You know, it's usually always going back to the Midwest for family stuff, or we take vacations in Florida or whatever. But I just didn't fly. And then we had to fly back for a wedding, and it's just going to be for the weekend. We couldn't get off work any longer than that. And what my solution was to get drunk, and that worked. I got on the plane, and I, with a buzz, got more drunk on the plane, and they peeled me off. And I didn't really like that. And then we flew home with my mother-in-law, who is she was 80 at the time, and you didn't drink in front of my mother-in-law. So I'm like, oh God, now what do I do? So I just white knuckled it. And she was a talker, at least. So she and I talked through the whole flight. And my husband just he's just he flew all the time in his life. He's like, what's the big deal? And I never really told him my fear.
Yeah.
So time went on, and I didn't fly again. You know, we always kind of drove. It just kind of happened. And
Your husband ever vicious? You know, was he like, why? You know,
he saw me. We were in DC. We had driven up to DC, and we were using the subway. And if you're in the Pentagon, if you've ever been down that escalator down to the subway, it's a straight shot down, and I had a panic attack. And I would have them periodically, but I always, for my anxiety during that time period, I always used alcohol as a drug to calm down.
Sure.
And it worked. You know, I didn't really abuse alcohol at that time, other than for those moments.
That give away to your husband that you were drinking on the leg without your mother-in-law, and then on the leg with your mother-in-law,
Yeah.
you weren't drinking.
And he had his master's, and you know, the guy was not stupid. But you know, he loved me. Anything, you know, he was a great guy. He would put up with anything. So, you know, and he traveled so much for work on an airplane that he really didn't want to fly anywhere anymore. In and out of airports, Monday through Thursday, you know, that kind of lifestyle. And I never had you know, that experience, but and he was just, whatever, Patsy, you know, who cares? But when I started having the panic attacks in front of him, he's like, you really ought to start doing something about this. So I'd go to a psychiatrist, I'd read all the books, I'd read the magazines, I'd try. And finally, my husband got sick, and then my sister got sick with cancer, both a very short period of time with each other. And I went to a doctor and I said, listen, if I've got to fly I can't drive to Ohio with him being sick, I have to be able to fly. And so that's when they started prescribing me Xanax to be able to get on a plane. And that helped. I thought, well, at least I'm not going to be drunk when I get off. So my husband died, my sister died in 2010. And that's why I asked Ron, I thought, wow. So I started somehow, I knew my husband was sick in 2008. So I started telling a friend of mine, I said, you know, I really have this fear of heights. And so to relieve some of the anxiety of everything, we would go for walks. And she and I started walking up and down the steps in her condo. And I could not walk up 3 flights because going up was okay, but going down, I'd get really dizzy. I'd get really panicky. So, but we just kept doing it over, that repetition of just doing it over. So I flew up to Ohio, and it was okay. I was very foggy. I didn't like it. I thought, why am I like this? Why, you know, I've got to do something. So I know I went online because it's the only way to find you, Ron. So it must have been some time period because my husband got really sick in 2009, and then he passed in 2010, and my sister passed in 2011. And I drove up to Ohio for her. And driving home, I said, this is 16 hours in a car by myself. I'm not that interesting. I've got to learn to fly again. This is just crazy. So I get home and I went to a psychologist, and she worked with me, hypnotized me. And I'm like, well, I still don't want to. I still was having such hesitation. So I got a hold of Ron, and I'm trying to think. The first trip was to New York to see my brother. And, you know, he walked me through it. I did the harmonizer. Is that what it's called? The very first CD. And I just love that thing. And I lost it in this last move. But I have used, we'll talk afterwards. I could never find it. That's part of this last trip. So but what happened was, you know, I did that CD every day, morning, noon, and night, took walks, relaxed with it, just to get over the anxiety of getting up in that plane. And my whole family flies, so they don't understand this. They don't understand my mind doing this. So so Ron called me going to the airport and that day, and my friend who was helping me walk, she drove me to the airport. And so Ron calls me, and Ron practically walks me through the gates to get on the plane. I thought, okay. And I just put on the harmonizer, and I got through a 2-hour flight. And
don't tell them about the shock collar that I put on you.
oh yeah, the shock collar. So that, unfortunately, like, so I then started flying like twice a year. You know, I mean, just work doesn't, and vacation time, you know, I just don't pick up and go on an airplane. But what happened was I was after some time period, I don't want to sound like somebody here, I started dating a guy who flies for a living. And, you know, and it's like nothing. He's like, Patsy, I go on a plane like you get in your car to go to work. So I thought, well, I really got to get comfortable with this. You know, if I'm going to start traveling with this guy, I can't be like a raging idiot. And, you know, and I've always like put myself down for it. It's just, you know, it's helped me, and Ron has helped me a lot with this, like not thinking I'm crazy or anything. I deal with the anxiety. And so, you know, time has gone on. I've flown well, and everything was going well. I think in 2018, I actually took about 5 flights that year. And I was just, you know, I was getting comfortable with it. And I was like, well, the more you do it, the easier it's going to be. And because one of my things that I'm still working on this is that I'm fine when I live in Southwest Florida, flying from here like to New York or to DC or to Ohio. It's like kind of a safe 3-hour max. And I always go, well, no, that's not true. I try the most part to get one nonstop.
Yeah.
And that helps a lot. But down here, you usually have to stop in Atlanta or Charlotte. But anyhow, my goal is to be able to fly to California. I have friends who just bought a house in Hawaii, free stay. I mean, I've got to get on that plane to Hawaii. So, you know, the goal is to kind of keep trying and working with this and to do that. So this last trip to DC was quite interesting because of COVID, sitting around, you know, looking at myself. I live with a cat, and it's like, ugh. And, you know, I called Ron. Well, I think I texted or emailed because I've always had him on my email list. And I said, I'm flying and I need help. And so we did a 15-minute consultation, and, you know, and just really talked about, it's kind of like the same stuff, you know, that we had been going on from the very beginning. I would say I was much more at ease. I did, you know, I know they're going to ask this question. Well, did I sleep? No, the night before I tried. I woke up at 3. My flight was at 11 in the morning. So, you know, I did a normal routine the day before, but that just didn't happen. I was all over the place. But I could calm down with meditation. I calmed down with prayer, and then I just had my phone going with the FearlessFlight. It's just the little short version. It's not the whole harmonizer CD. So I just kept listening to that thing all the time. And the lady next to me on the plane, she was more scared than I was. So I was like, calm her. God works in strange ways, you know? So like, get out of your head, Patsy.
Was that before or after? The lady on the plane, was that before or after you heard the harmonizer?
Well, I wasn't listening to the harmonizer.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I wanted to give her the other earbud to listen to it as well. But that's like kind of gross. But anyhow, don't like to share earbuds. But, you know, she just, you know, we talked about it a little bit, and then I thought it helped me to like tell this lady, you know, you're afraid too. So she's afraid, you're afraid. And I tell you this, the not to plug, I flew Southwest and they were just wonderful. Yeah, I mean, I think that, I don't know if it's because COVID and getting everybody back to some normalcy in life, but they were very kind of conscious of people being afraid. I was really kind of impressed with it.
Culture, you know, a good culture. Their work culture is unique, and
Yeah,
a great CEO who just passed a year or two ago.
yeah.
I
So-
like stuff. I didn't work for him, but I like him a lot.
Yeah, I do. And I flew up to the Baltimore area, so it's just really convenient for me. And it's, but so on the flight home, I was with my sister for 4 days. We hadn't seen each other in a year and a half, just because of circumstance and COVID. And she cannot wait to get on the plane. I mean, she just lives to be born on a plane. And I said, you know, I'm the one that's afraid that I'm flying. Why aren't you flying? You're the one that likes this stuff. So she's one of those people that like has to be at the airport 15 minutes before you take off.
Yeah.
I have to plan. I have to be there 2 hours before. You know,
You want to see them pull up to the hangar and do the maintenance,
right.
and just get on and check it out, make sure it's okay.
You got it. You know, when those pilots like walk through, I say Hail Mary for you people when I go to, you're going to the cockpit. I'm saying prayers for you. I say prayers for you the night before, that you and your family are happy and healthy and the whole nine.
And we appreciate it, because if
That's
you knew
good.
some of us, we need them.
Yeah.
I'm sure you do.
As a technique though, your 15-minute prior friend, if you have the guts to do that, everybody else is already there. So you can get to the ticket counter, security, that kind of thing. Generally, whatever on the bank it's already gone through. So you can walk through by yourself if you haven't passed the cutoff time for checking bags and checking in, which is always a risk.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, big time.
It's a big risk reward thing, but you could possibly show up and blow right through. But I wouldn't advise it as a technique, but the people that use it swear by it.
But there's always
Right.
Murphy's law.
Yeah.
Murphy's law is always involved with that sort of thing.
One hiccup and you're not going.
Yeah.
So we were on our 4th day together, and it doesn't really matter how long, you know, family hadn't seen each other. 3 days is max. The 4th day we were kind of like, "Ugh." And I'm like, you get me to that airport now. So, but it was crowded, and security was tired. I felt sorry for those people.
Yeah.
And they got us through, but it was so cramped. I was like, and that's kind of the other thing. I don't like crowds, just, you know, so, but that's all the airports are, you know, they're just so packed. There's a full plane up there and a full plane back. Now I get why you like to come to Southwest Florida, but you know, where I was going, who cares?
Who wants to go to
Baltimore. Right. You know, unless you got to see family, you know. So, but you know, I was surprised how calm or how mature I felt. Let's put it that way. That I actually walked into the airplane. I didn't even think about that I had a fear. I got a seat, and you know, the one thing that bothered me is like, okay, they had really rotten, but this little snack stuff. It was so stale. It was like 2019 stuff, you know, been sitting around. Right. They done.
I got a question for you there.
Yes.
I wondered about the Xanax. Are you able to fly now without the Xanax?
Well, I do have a prescription for it, and I don't. I use it only for extreme anxiety attacks, which have been few and far between. I took it going. My doctor says grow up and take the whole pill. I take 0.25, and I cut that in half, so it's really a placebo. And so I would like not to take that. So I didn't take it coming home, is what I was about saying. I was so grown up because I didn't take it going home. And it was kind of funny. They didn't have liquor on the plane. So there was no way I could have a drink. So like, well, God's got me covered, you know? And, but, oh, I will say one thing, I almost panicked going up, leaving here, we were just crammed and full flight. We get out to the runway, we're sitting there for 45 minutes and the pilot gets on and goes, we're going to turn around to get more gas. That did not make me feel comfortable. But I said, okay, I'm this far. I'm going to do this. We get back to the gate. And then they say, not only are we getting gas, but we're going to wait for a new pilot because he had a family emergency. And I'm like, oh, am I not supposed to go? You know, and I start like making up stories then. No. So I just plugged your voice back in, Ron. And I just kept like blaring it.
But how superstitious we are as a species. And so any little thing goes wrong or right, we'll relate that to, oh, that's a sign, or maybe.
The universe is telling you something.
But then going back with the gas, just to say a little bit of clarification, is that's what you want them to do.
Right.
You know?
Oh yeah.
Because the filling stations are really hard to hook up to in flight. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that would make you much less nervous than if the pilot came on and said, I really don't have enough fuel for the trip, but I didn't want to upset anybody and go back and get some more. So we're just going to leave anyway.
Yeah. And because we think we kind of got it. It's with the Kentucky windage. We think we got a good chance at making
Yeah,
it.
with the tail, a headwind.
See, I don't mind when I hit south because then you get that wind pushing you down.
There you go. There you go.
Oh my gosh. But we got a new pilot and we took back off and I thought, oh, just get me up there and get going, you know? Because my thing is not take off and landing. I'm all right with that. What that floating, you know, to get the destination, I don't need to know that how many thousands of miles up there I am. I really don't. I don't know why you guys got to say that, you know, 30, 40. I'm like, ugh, you know.
Enough with the altitude. Yeah.
Who gives a shit? You know,
Yeah.
I know some.
Wants to know that kind of information.
Oh, they don't. I don't know. I think they're lying. But anyhow.
Well, here's the thing that I've always noted in you, Patsy. One, your honesty, your authenticity, and being who you are. That's what attracted me to you the very first time I talked with you, and got rekindled when we talked
Yeah.
ago. You know,
You're sweet.
You gotta be on the show because you are a great inspiration for people out there. You tell it like it is for you, and that's I've said I don't want anybody. It's not about me. I want people to hear what your experience is really like. You know, because to me, whenever the media tries to portray somebody as having a magic pill or they did this and then it worked out, that's more the exception than the rule. More people are like, it's a process that you go through, and for people like you who stick with it, that's the payoff.
Yeah.
So anyway.
I think not that I wanted to drink, but I thought it was odd that they didn't have liquor, and I thought, well, good, they don't, because, you know, COVID, people have changed. They're not really temperamental anymore. But they didn't have ginger ale. You know, and I was like, I was going to go off that they didn't have ginger ale, but no, don't do that.
They hold a card up, and you got four pictures.
Right.
But that's what you were talking about, Patsy, with regard to the alcohol service. That was one of the things that virtually all of the airlines did during COVID, was to eliminate service and even eliminate providing alcoholic beverages even to first class on those airlines that have first class. Even now, for the airline that I work for, that has come back for first class. The service as far as food, snacks, has come back on a limited basis depending on the length of the trip. But there's still no alcoholic beverage service for the main cabin. So that is not uncommon, the experience that you had with regard to the change.
Oh, that's good.
Service. So,
you know, I don't drink anymore, and I, you know, it's kind of, but I don't want to sit next to somebody sloppy drunk either. And that's kind of,
flight attendants don't want people sloppy drunk.
yeah, I can't imagine.
So Diane, I just want to jump in here. Are you saying that pretty much all carriers, because that was a question in the comments, if in first class all carriers are kind of resuming the service that they had before COVID, or is there still a discrepancy? Or
But it's not, because American didn't today when it came out.
Right. It kind of depends. A part of it is the length of the trip. There are mileage for the regionals anyway. For mainline, I'm not quite sure, but there are mileage cutoffs that over X number of miles they are giving some kinds of service, and
Okay.
others. With regard to first class, I know we are providing an alcoholic beverage on request. Not, as I said, not for main cabin. So again, it's kind of airline specific,
Yeah.
but those kinds of service thresholds are being restored pretty much across the board. So it might not be your particular flight, but in general, though, that's kind of the way everything is going.
And the airlines, when one reinstates it,
Oh,
then they all got to
absolutely.
jump on
Yeah,
board.
they
So
all.
Right.
I imagine that'll come back pretty soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I rode up at American this morning and they did not serve anything in first class to the folks there. So,
Hmm.
so, well, Patsy, thanks a bunch. Any words of advice to anybody out there that's sitting on the edge, so to speak,
Yeah.
or they can't get on the edge, maybe. So
Well, you know, and I fully get that. I mean, I didn't jump on that over that edge for quite a long time. I think that you know, just keep trying.
yeah.
You know that, and I don't know how you do that if you only fly once a year or for an emergency sake or twice a year, but I think there's such a sense of freedom when you try something and you succeed. You know, you might be I've been a nervous wreck at the end of a flight, but that ends. You know, once I'm on the ground, and go do whatever I'm going to go do. But you know, I know it's improved. I know I want to keep trying it, and I swear I'm going to get out there to Phoenix somehow and take your course. Of course, I have to fly there to do it.
They do well to do just to follow in your footsteps, you know, start with a 15-minute coaching call, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then just stick with it. And the thing that I admired in you as well was when you got to fly in and you felt like you needed to brush up a little bit, you know, you
Yeah.
and that's the courage.
And it really helps. I think reaching out, it was one of the best things I did for myself. So thanks, Ron. Appreciate it. Good to,
You're welcome.
Thanks,
So,
Patsy.
yeah.
thank you.
So you can stick with us if we haven't bored you to tears so far, and we'll
No, I'm going to listen to the end.
yeah, we'll close this thing up here. So Dieter, push us forward here, and
all right. So next, you want to jump into Tracy's story, or
yeah, we'll talk really
Okay.
briefly about Tracy, and
Yeah.
and we're starting to see the numbers, you know, that Patsy was talking about at the airport. I went to the airport multiple times over this last 3 days. Holy cow, forgot what it was like to actually have to sit in the back for that long here. This is Tracy Solis. Both pictures of her. The smile tells it all. She had been working with me, and we did the elite coaching, and I flew with her to, I went over and met her in Ontario, brought her over here. She had a daughter in town that she was visiting with, and then at the end of her stay, we flew back and gave her the graduation certificate. I don't know if we have the video there or not, but anyway, and she just did fabulous. She couldn't believe it. And she reminded me just how sensitive everybody is. You know, I mean, the airplane would barely bank, 5 degrees maybe. And she was, it's just because you tend to be hyper vigilant and hyper alert. And so that triggers people. And so I had her do the seagull thing and put her hands under her armpits and bank with us there for a while. So she got laughing. I don't know if it helped, but she got laughing so hard it didn't matter anymore. So anyway, so you want to try and play this, Dieter? I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, we got no sound. But,
sorry, there's no sound coming out.
yeah, we'll post it.
Yeah.
And if you go
Okay.
into our Birds of a Feather group, Tracy made a really good post, and I encouraged her to go up and meet the pilots, which was the best thing she did on both flights. And she got so engaged up there. And then the captain on the way back from to Ontario the other night, he was talking to me about the program because they were Phoenix based and all that. So he and I were talking. So she said, "Give me your camera." So she's just clicking. You know, it's a good thing it wasn't classified because she took pictures, 1,000 pictures in there, and she posted many of them on the site there the other night. So. And then we had some other people I want to shout out for. We had Josh, who called me for the first time just barely a week ago. He had a trip coming up yesterday it was, and he was going to visit family and friends. He lives in Santa Barbara, so he had to ride your airline to get to Vegas. And then I believe it was Southwest down to Las Vegas from that point. And he was all worried, and he texted me after the first leg. He said, "Oh my gosh, wasn't even bothered." And then on to Vegas a little bit later when they landed, he sent me a similar message. And Nina, not unlike Patsy, I worked with her back 10 years ago or so. And at that time she had no kids. Now she's got 2 boys or 3 boys, I can't remember. And they were doing the old pilgrimage down to Disney World out of Boston. And so she called up for a brush up coaching session and worked with her. And she did terrific. Gave me a real neat text there at the end. And just earlier today, she got on an airplane to come home, and she was so busy with her 3-year-old. And any of you have 3-year-olds, you know that's your secret weapon if you need distraction. And so she did fine. I flew down with another elite coaching student. I had to go to Ontario and then I used Lyft over to LAX to meet another client, and we flew down to Leon, Mexico the other night, and I just came back this morning. I got to tell on myself. So we get to you start off, first of all, I had to get up at 1 o'clock in the morning, Phoenix time, thinking, we got to do the show yet today and all that. And so then I asked for a taxi cab driver who took a credit card. I hate having all that funny money with me. And so I don't get it. So I get in there, we get to the airport after about a 30-minute drive, and I give him my credit card. He said, "Oh, no, cash." And I found a 20 that I had hidden in there. That doesn't say much about me, I guess, but finally I got enough cash. I don't know what he would have done if I didn't have the money. I guess I'd be in a Mexican jail yet. But anyway, so we got there. So, that kind of puts you on edge. And so I'm feeling like, maybe I'm a fearful flyer a little bit, not looking forward to all this stuff. Go through there, had a couple of other things trying to find the right place to go and all that. And then I get to Dallas, 3 hours to kill, nothing to do but sit around there. And I missed my flight. Believe it or not, we go into the international terminal, and then DFW has gotten bigger since I last went down there. Oh my God, they got multiple concourses, and my ticket said 37 on it. I come down the stairs, there's 37. So I sat there, and my flight departed at 11:14, and just out of nowhere, because I'm thinking I'll see all the activity at the gate there. Not much activity. And I look over at the sun, it says Atlanta. I'm thinking, that damn airline, they changed the gate. No, it was A37, not D37. I wanted to blame it on anybody, let me tell you. And then so I just turned it into a big joke and said, and I'm not retired, I'm retarded. And I don't mean that disparagingly against anybody who's mentally challenged, but it was frustrating. And so I had to, fortunately they had a flight about an hour and 15 minutes later. But anyway, so I've told people, when you're flying with Captain Ron and Tracy's, you need to pay attention to the time, because he'll get lost, and you never let the pilot drive the rental car either. So
DFW is that's the size of Missouri.
Oh my God!
Oh my God!
You don't want a 31-minute connect.
Yeah, I started out in Fort Worth and ended up in Dallas. So
don't tell me that I have to go to Dallas.
So it's been a great week for people out there, and to keep up the good work, everybody. The crowds the traffic is back. It's amazing.
It really is.
Yep.
Really
and
is.
So we want to do anything we can to help you out there. We'll move on. We just got a couple of things real quick that we'll talk about regarding the aviation news update, and a question that we have, if Dieter wants to put one of those slides up there. Had a question real quick about someone asked me, is it better to be tired, stay up all night, before your flight, or get some rest? And, for some of you, I know it's a problem getting good rest the night before, but generally I would say it's better if you get as much rest as you can, because sleep deprivation has its own bag of gifts for you and for all of us as human beings. So it's probably better if you can get what sleep you can, and maybe if it's not a complete night's rest like you would hope for, maybe that will help make you a little bit drowsier and all that. But just staying up all night, generally, I wouldn't. I can tell you, I got not that much sleep last night, and it makes a long day for you. Okay, and then there are a couple of aviation news updates. One was there was an article that came out. The courts over in Europe, there was a tragic accident. You may remember, just 3 weeks after Sully in 2009, where an Air France A300, I believe it was 330, ended up crashing into the Atlantic. Was made all the news and all that. Led to some problems. And what I wanted to mention is not all the litigation stuff that's going on and all that, but the fact that one of the main findings was training the crew better. And we know that came out of the 737 MAX 800 and 900s as well. So again, I just want to make just reemphasize how training, how we take it very seriously, and how that's how we got to as safe as we are, which leads to the next article, which was unrelated to the airline industry per se. It was a food group, food manufacturers or producers, and they were saying we need to look at the airlines and follow what they do in terms of how they increase product safety and all that. And their issue is when they have a recall for spinach or some of the produce out there, it's devastating to those industries, and everybody goes and lawyers up and all that. And what they highlighted was the thing that you've heard Eric and I talk about for years, and that is how we cooperate, how we can now tell on ourselves and disclose mistakes that we made that may or may not have been problematic, and it all goes into a pool, and everybody, and that's what this article said. When you look at just U.S. airlines alone, they pointed this statistic out. The odds are 1 in 120 million in the last 12 years that you'll die in a plane crash, and we had just that one fatal, and that was that poor woman that was on a Southwest airplane in 2018. But it's just getting safer and safer and safer, and it's because of that cooperative thing. And I was telling Eric and I were talking. I said, wouldn't it be interesting if after every traffic accident, instead of having to go to traffic school or something like that, they would give you a detailed analysis of what happened in the accident, and you got training on how to get better judgment for the next time. So much for that. And I see Dieter's got the quote up there with the, that the industry is a good one. So it's safe. It's safe. Fear flying has nothing to do with the safety of the airplane. It's all about what you tell yourself up here. You got to change the way you think about it, and that's what we try to do. So, okay, last pitch for coaching. If you haven't done one, follow all the people that are finding the site now, because I'm getting lots of coaching appointments. I love them. I love talking to all of you out there. And any closing words, Dieter? Any of you guys?
No,
We're good.
all good.
Yeah, all good.
I just wanted.
Okay, go ahead.
I have something because I just wanted to congratulate Tracy. Tracy is on, actually. Sorry we couldn't play your video there, but
she's coming on for an interview. Yeah, we'll get her.
Yeah, she'll be on the show at some point. But I just want to honor and celebrate your courage and your commitment to yourself, and that's really also what I heard from Patsy as well. It's like it doesn't matter how much fear we feel, but there is a way through it, and it's not alcohol and it's not Xanax, but it is that journey of exploring that edge within ourselves. And I think fear of flying in that sense, like Patsy said, if you only fly once a year or twice a year, how do you do it? And Jim Duke, our very own, he said, well, guess what? That's why we have the show. That's why we have blog articles. That's why we want to engage with you. So the more you participate, ask questions, send us the questions even in Messenger before the show, the more we can really drill down to what's meaningful to you. And so please never be shy to ask your questions. Many have been asked before, but every time there's a new angle, and you can, it's like when you read a book 3 times, the third time you read it, it's a very different book. And with our show, it's the same thing. We're really bringing to you those tools for your own transformation, really.
It's been 24 years since Tracy had flown. And the flight over was, after we got in, like a couple of minutes into the flight, she noticed that she had she was more composed and everything. And the flight back was like the first one, completely blew the first one away. So, and that's our experience there. Just a quick shout out. We got Oliver Fry is coming. I don't know. He was gonna chat this up in the chat. So I don't know whether he's been talking about it, but he talked to me last year on my birthday. We did a class and Oliver was one of a couple people there. So we celebrated my birthday, getting him back in the air. And this year he's coming over to kind of keep his skills up because of COVID and all that. And he's coming to that. So we'll throw it out there. If you have any desires and you want to go with us, because he and I are going to celebrate my birthday again on an airplane going to Orange County. So if you got any intent of that, let me know and we'll see if we can't accommodate you in some way. Other than that,
Oliver put the date in the chat. So
Yeah.
if you are interested and there is availability, go for it.
So thanks everybody. We went over, but I want to thank Patsy again and for being so bold and in telling her story. Always inspirational, and thanks to the group of gear with me here again, the support staff. So again, till next week, Fearless Flight Live. Come back every week.
See you guys.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.